Good. Right. So the first thing, guys, that I'd like to do is thank you all for joining us. We know that this is a pretty tough time for us all with the coronavirus pandemic. We know that it's tough for, give me 1 second. As you can see, somebody else has just joined. So we know it's a tough time for you all at the moment. And we're really thankful that you've all decided to join us because it means you are trying to continue business as usual. Before I go any further, you're all on mute at the moment. Can anybody not see my screen? If you can't see my screen, please take yourself off mute and let me know. Nobody's off mute, which is good. So I'm assuming you can all see this, which is great. We may get a couple of people pop up as we go through this that need to be admitted in. So, again, thank you all very much for joining us. My name's James Battison. I'm the Chief Growth Officer of the business. Trust Mike to join late. I'm the Chief Growth Officer of the business, and today we're going to be talking about all things RPA. So if you're new to RPA, this is perfect for you. If you do know a little bit about RPA already, you will probably learn something new today, but you may already know some of the stuff that we're about to go through. Today is McKarthy Labs' first webinar, so we wanted to keep it sort of short and sweet and keep it about the basics of RPA. Going forward, we will be doing a lot more webinars. So we'll be doing some deep dives into the technology. We'll be doing some deep dives into specific industries and how RPA can benefit those industries. But as I say, today is more about giving you guys the basic information that you need to wrap your head around what RPA is and what it can do for your business. So, as I mentioned a minute ago, I'm the Chief Growth Officer of the business, which usually gives everybody a bit of a laugh. But what it really means is that I head up all things sales and marketing. So anything to do with looking after the customers, account management, getting customers to begin on the journey of RPA falls within my remit. And I have a team of people that work with me who are also on this call. We're looking at probably 30 to 45 minutes for the webinar today. I'll try and keep it as short and sweet as possible because I know how busy everybody is. What I will do is run through this deck with you all, give you the information that I'm hoping will be beneficial. And at the end, we will do a Q&A. So I'm going to keep you all on mute. If for some reason the screen drops off or you can no longer hear me, all I ask is that you please come off mute and shout up and we can get that sorted. I am also recording this session so that I can send this out so that anybody who has accepted the invite but hasn't been able to join can still see this, and we'll be putting this over our social media and on our YouTube channel as well so that you can all go back to it. Some of the things that we're going to cover today is we'll give you an introduction to us, so who are McKarthy Labs. We'll discuss the ins and outs of RPA, so what is RPA and where's it used, who's it for, some of the benefits. I will also show you guys a video of one of the bots we've built for a customer of ours, and that video will be very helpful in actually painting the picture about what RPA does. We'll bust a few myths that you may have heard about RPA. We'll talk about RPA as a service, and we'll end up on the Q&A. And what I would ask for the Q&A, guys, is rather than shout up throughout the webinar, which might get a bit messy, I ask that you please use the chat function. So when we come to the end, I'll open up that chat and I'll read through any of the questions that you guys have got. So just type them in as you go along and I'll get through as many as I can at the end, bearing in mind that we're aiming to finish for about 11:15 at the latest. So without further ado, let's get started. So who are McKarthy Labs? Well, McKarthy Labs specialise in RPA and AI for a start. We are a company based in London. We do have offices across the UK. We have our team that work remotely and we have a couple of satellite offices. Our main one is in London, is our head office. We have another office in Leicester and we have an office offshore in India. We are part of a wider group of companies. So there are 6 companies within the group, and the group itself was founded back in 2005. So we're in our 15th year now. As it says there, we're an end-to-end automation solution provider, which is a bit of a fancy term. We've got our team here in the UK and our team over in India that consists of developers, technical architects, sales and marketing guys, business analysts, and everybody that you can think of that would be needed in an RPA journey. Good to see that Sujana has just joined us. We support businesses across the globe. We're predominantly working in the UK at the moment, although we have now started to expand across Europe. We're doing a bit in America, and we actually have one customer that's got an office in South Africa. We are able to support anybody anywhere in the world due to the fact that a lot of our development is done offshore, and with the advances in the cloud, we're able to remotely dial into our customers' infrastructure and be able to develop within there from remote. So that enables us to be able to deal with any business across the globe. It doesn't really matter where you guys are. And as a business, what we're aiming to do is we're aiming to build a brand that stands shoulder to shoulder with the big blue chip RPA providers, but we always want to continue operating as an SME. So that allows us to go above and beyond for you guys. We can bring solutions to market quicker than most of the people. So what is RPA? RPA stands for Robotic Process Automation. It is a disruptive technology, although it has been around for a number of years. In our experience, it started to gain traction around 2017 to 2018. It started to really make a name for itself in the IT industry, and a lot of people started to really get into RPA and consider what RPA was and how it could benefit their business. In a nutshell, RPA is the building of a software robot, or as we call it, a bot, that carries out some of the tasks that we as humans carry out on computers. So the simplest way I can explain it to you is, if you do something on a computer that uses a keyboard and a mouse, we are able to build a software robot or a bot that can carry that task out just like you do, except obviously it automates it. And there are a number of benefits that go along with that, and we'll talk about those as we go forward. But the way I would like you to think about RPA, and one of the takeaways from this webinar, is that RPA is like having your own personal assistant. So as you're going through your day-to-day tasks, if you come across things that you're doing that are repetitive and quite frankly boring, you would probably say, actually, could we deploy a little personal assistant, in this case a bot, that can handle some of those tasks? So when you're first starting out on an RPA journey, think about it like having your own personal assistant that deals with all the things that you don't like dealing with. And if you wanted to start on the RPA journey, take the things that are repetitive. Take the things that you do day in, day out and week in, week out, and think about those as, can we automate them? And finally, the last point there is that RPA is highly accessible. So, and we'll go through some more slides in a minute that shows how it becomes highly accessible for everybody. But really, if it can be automated, it should be automated. And that's how we think about RPA. So, where is RPA used? Well, the first thing is that RPA is used on any process that can be completed on a computer using a keyboard and mouse. So again, it's anything that you do on computers has the potential to be automated. Anything that is repetitive and standardized, so a process that you do regularly and that you do the same way each time, is good for automation. When we talk about accuracy dependent processes, what we're talking about is processes whereby you really can't afford to make mistakes. So a good example of that is finance processes. If you have, for example, an invoice process and you make a mistake in that process, that obviously has a detrimental effect on your customers. And therefore, you would argue that that process needs to be as accurate as it possibly can. And bots and RPA is really, really, really beneficial for that. Any process that requires a large amount of data, so whether that's thousands of lines in an Excel spreadsheet, or whether that's a system that requires information to be put in hundreds of fields, bots love data. They play with data, they eat data day in, day out, round the clock, and they're very good at dealing with high volumes of data. And anything that you do across multiple systems or multiple pieces of software, again, is really good for a bot. So you probably have a number of processes in your business right now that use different pieces of software, and you have to copy and paste data between those systems. And any IT person would argue that the only way you can automate that process is by using something called an API. Well, bots do it in a different way. Bots do it in the same way the humans do it. They log into the systems like the humans do, and they copy and paste data between them. So any process that involves multiple systems or software, RPA can definitely bring benefit to it. And finally, anything that's resource intense and time consuming. So if you have a team of people within your organization at the moment that are sitting there and carrying out the same process day in, day out, week in, week out, and it's a time consuming process, you can probably see some benefit by deploying RPA to it. You're probably wondering, who is RPA for? And in short, RPA is for everyone. And I know that's a bit of a cop-out answer, but RPA really truly is. So we have customers who are one-man bands, electricians, for example, and we've got customers who are massive global giant blue chip companies. Really, the answer here is that any business that has employees completing tasks on computers, again, using a keyboard and a mouse, can see and will see some benefit from RPA. And the way that I'd like you guys to think about it is, what issues are you trying to deal with, or what are your biggest business goals? And when you start to answer those questions, you can then say, how do we apply automation to get there? So for example, you may be looking to reduce costs. You may be looking to increase productivity and efficiency. You may be trying to grow your business without increasing your headcount. And again, RPA is beneficial for all those types of things. So think about your biggest business issues or the problems you're facing at the moment, and think about where you're trying to go in the next 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, even 5 years, and consider how RPA can be beneficial to get you to those goals. So the top 3 benefits of RPA, and RPA brings a lot of benefits to a business, and the next slide will show you some more. But for me personally, I believe that the top 3 benefits for RPA are the fact that bots can work around the clock. So it really can be 24/7 operation. So instantly, the moment you deploy a bot within your organization, you get 3 times the amount of work done in any one week. And that's if you have employees working 8 hours a day for 7 days of the week. So you get a minimum of 3 times the amount of work done. The second point there is that bots can work between 5 and 15 times quicker than humans. And I'm going to show you a video shortly that will demonstrate that. And that means that not only will you get 3 times the productivity with bots working 24/7, but if they also work 10 times quicker than humans, then you can really start to see how the benefits stack up there. You can get so much more done in any one day than you can if you have humans carrying out those operations. And the third point is that bots are 100% accurate. So what we mean by that is, if we tell a human to do something, or we show a human to do something, come back to them 10 years later, and they'll probably be getting the same output, but in 100 different ways. Whereas with a bot, you tell a bot what to do, and it will do it the same way every time. So if at the moment you've got any processes that directly affect your customers, and when mistakes are made, your customers are seeing some sort of negatives, and your customers are seeing some issues, you really want to think about deploying RPA, because with them being 100% accurate, you can take those mistakes and issues out of the process. Some of the other benefits that you can probably already imagine, that it's easier to hire bots than employees. So it's easier and it's less expensive. You don't have the recruitment cost that you have when you're hiring an employee. You don't have all the onboarding. The bots are easier to hire. Employees are obviously freed up to focus on value-added activities. So we know that most businesses could actually offer customers a little bit of a better solution, and we're no different. You could spend more time talking to your customers, but you actually spend a lot of time doing the data entry and the paperwork exercises on the back end. And by freeing up some of those activities, you and your employees can focus on the things that really help your business grow. Bots, as you can imagine, don't need parking spaces or desk spaces. They don't steal your lunch out the fridge. They don't need pensions or holidays, and they don't take sick leave. So I think now more than ever, with the pandemic, the coronavirus, bots don't get that type of virus. And therefore, if we had deployed bots in our business before the coronavirus pandemic, we would not be seeing any change in our processes. Customer satisfaction is increased, and to give you a very simple example that I sort of touched on earlier, if you have an invoice process and you invoice your customers the wrong amount and they pay it, there will be an issue. They may be asking for a credit note, or you may be having to chase them for more money. By automating that process and making it 100% accurate, you can ensure that you invoice customers on time, in full, every time, and therefore the customer satisfaction is increased. And that's just one example of many. And of course, bots can handle greater workloads. So with the 24/7 operation and the 5 to 15 times quicker than humans, bots can take on a lot more work than we as humans can. I want to do a quick slide here and talk about some of our customers, give you guys an idea of why I said to you that RPA is for everyone. So when we look at some of these customers, you can see that we're working with the world's largest procurement consultancy. They've got 10 offices in Europe, North America, and the Middle East. We're working with a leading public service provider that supports hundreds of thousands of people each year, and they're actually supporting, they will have supported by 2021 over 1 million people. One of our customers is the largest British-owned industrial distributor. They've now got over 1,800 employees. I actually believe they've got pushing on to 2,000 now. They've got a global presence, and we're working with them both in the US and South Africa. Another one of our customers, which you'll see a demo from in a minute, is Value Leaf, which is a contingent workforce management company. They work in over 31 countries, and they use RPA and AI to support their contractors, which we'll touch on in a moment. And at the bottom there, we've also working with a digital marketing agency who are a team of 3 people. So whilst we're working with some of the largest companies you can think of, we're also working with companies that have literally 3 people, or sole traders like electricians and people that need to automate invoice process and things like that. So the point here is that we're not precious on what industry you're in, what you do, what your headcount is, or what your turnover is. We're interested in seeing, can we bring you benefit? And we do that by obviously looking at your processes, regardless of the size of your organization. So Value Leaf are a long-standing customer of ours. They are a contingent workforce management company. They operate in over 31 countries, support 15 languages. They have over 100 customers themselves, and they manage over 20,000 consultants. Now, what Value Leaf do is they use RPA and they use artificial intelligence to ensure that they do not miss contract renewals. They ensure that all of the contractors they support and manage are paid on time, in full, 100% of the time. They ensure that, because they work across the globe and they're in 31 countries, they ensure that all of their consultants have the correct visas and that they are on top of any expiry of visas. And all of this stuff is done using RPA and AI, which means Value Leaf as a business can offer a solution that guarantees that level of accuracy, whereas a lot of the competitors who are doing things manually can't guarantee that. So they've really gone onto the journey of RPA and AI and are growing at an alarming rate because of it. So what I'd like to do, if it works, is show you a demonstration. And this isn't the live box because we can't show you live data. We have to obviously show you, a sort of proof of concept or dummy data, if you like. But what I'd like to show you is a video of one of Value Leaf bots and how it actually operates. And really, what I'd like you to take away from this video, guys, is the fact that bots can work across those multiple systems, and bots can work quicker than humans can. And this video will demonstrate that, and I'll talk you through it if it plays. Here we go. So this is the bot platform. The human has clicked run, but the human doesn't have to. We can schedule it to run. The bot is now using Excel, and you see the runtime window in the bottom right means that the bot is running. So what the bot's doing here is looking at a list of contractors in Excel. And again, this is dummy data, of course. Looking at a list of contractors in Excel. The bot will then pick up all the information about those contractors, about the hours that they've worked in that period of time. And what the bot will do is the bot will log into the company's house website and find the company number for those contractors, if they're limited companies. It will then log into the European VAT register website, which you'll see it doing now. So here's the company's house website. So this is showing you that the bot has used Excel. Now it's using the company's house website and collecting the data it needs. It's then using the European VAT register website, where it will see if the company is VAT registered or not. And look at the speed at which it's creating this PDF invoice. So I wanted to show you that to show you that the bots really are very quick. The bot will save that invoice in the shared folder that we've told it to save it in. So far it's used Excel, it's used Company's House, it's used a European VAT register, it's created a PDF invoice automatically, it has saved that invoice in a shared location. And what you'll see in a moment, once it runs through, so it's doing it for the 3 contractors, so it's saying no valid VAT number there. And what you'll see in a moment is the bot will actually log into QuickBooks, which is the accounting package. And again, this is all an example. So it's going to log into QuickBooks and it will physically process those invoices. So this is a very, very, very powerful bot. It does a lot. It does whole processes end to end. And what you'll see here is the bot is logging in as if it was the human. So if you're wondering, can the bot use one of my systems? The answer is, if the human can access the system, the bot can access the system. So we may give the bot a login, like a username and password, or we may give the bot the ability to double click the desktop app if it's a desktop system. And I'm not going to let this play the whole way through because it goes on for a little while longer and may bore you. I'm also conscious we're getting to 10:25, and I want to get onto the Q&A soon. But really, this is our example of showing you that it can use multiple systems. It uses those systems like the human does, and it doesn't matter what system it is, we can access it. So, some myths. You may have been looking at RPA, you may have heard of RPA some years ago, and you may have come across some of the things that I would say have been classed as blockers to people going on the RPA journey. I want to bust some of those myths today, and I want to let you know that RPA has advanced and is not what people sometimes perceive it to be. So the first thing people always say is that RPA is expensive. Well, I can tell you that we have built bots for as little as £5,000. We've also hired bots out for as little as a few £100 a month, and we've done bots for as much as £200,000. So when people talk about, are bots expensive? Bots can be expensive if you're doing a huge automation, but bots can literally be down at a few £100 a month to hire bots out. So no longer do you need to worry about trying to get the big capital and the big budgets for bots. You can start really small, prove the concept, prove the benefit, and then grow with us. So bots are no longer expensive, which is how they were perceived some years ago. People say that bots are complicated. Well, I can tell you now that bots can be complicated. We can do some really elaborate automations, and we have done. But actually, bots can also be really simple. We have a team of business analysts, some of which are on this call. We have a team of developers. We have a team of technical architects. As a team, we give you guys pretty much a fully managed service. So we come into your organization, albeit we do it virtually right now, and we hold your hand through the whole journey. So you do not need to worry about the tech, the devs. You don't need to worry about anything like that. All you need to worry about is calling us in and getting us on the journey with you, and we will take care of everything for you. This no longer needs to be really complicated. It doesn't need to be time consuming, and you don't need to involve 47 IT people within your organization to implement bots. That's exactly what we're here for. One of the other things people say is that it's only for big companies. And I think the reason why people say that is because originally the big companies were the people who were pushing RPA, and they were selling to the other big companies. But with the emergence of cloud technology and with things like RPA as a service, which I'll come on to in a minute, it's made it a lot more accessible for smaller businesses. And as I mentioned to you earlier, we have customers who are literally one-man bands or teams of 3 people, and they are getting significant benefit from RPA. People say it's going to replace our jobs, and this is probably the biggest worry that we get from customers is that, well, actually, are our employees going to be replaced? And I think that there is a number of ways I can sort of bust that myth, but really what I'd like to touch on is we do something called attended automation. There is something called unattended automation, and maybe that's another day for a different webinar, but we do what's called attended automation, which is where the bots work in conjunction with the employees, which means that the employees are not replaced. They actually have their own, like I like to call it, personal assistant that works alongside them. What it also means is that for businesses that really want to grow, they're actually looking at RPA to free up some of the employees' time to focus on more value-added activities, which is exactly what I would like all of you to think about. If your employees had 30 or 40% of the things they do freed up, could they focus on something more value-added? And the answer every time is yes. We also know that RPA can be used to grow the business without increasing headcount. Every business, every single business in the world, I'm yet to come across one that doesn't want to grow. But we all want to grow our business in terms of turnover and the number of customers, yet increasing headcount with that sometimes brings us some challenges. So by deploying RPA, we can actually free up our employees to allow them to deal with the increase in workload coming in. And again, that is not taking away people's jobs. And finally, humans are always needed for problem solving, creativity, and human interaction. You will never find a business that is fully automated. It just will not happen. Put it this way, we're an RPA business and I'm still sitting here as a human talking to you. And I promise you I am a human, I'm not a bot. And finally, people say that it's difficult implementations. That's exactly what we're here for, guys. We can implement bots, and we have implemented bots for literally in a matter of 2 days. And we've built bots in a matter of 8-10 weeks. Implementations can be difficult at times if you're automating something big, but we are yet to come across a process that we have not been able to automate. And like I said, we have done implementations for as little as a couple of days. So it really can be a short amount of time. And it really can be a much easier and simpler implementation. So you're probably wondering, and you'll be pleased to know we're getting to the end of this now, how can RPA help you right now? And I wanted to include this because we know that the pandemic is causing us a lot of issues. We're all on lockdown. We are all adjusting to working from home, which means that our productivity may drop. We know, and we've seen this, that invoices may not be getting paid, which means that you as a business probably needs to consider how do you control or cut your costs. And we also know that in this time that some of your processes may grind to a halt because you may have employees that need to be in the office but can't be in the office. And so you're probably wondering, well, how can RPA help us with that? So we can keep your processes working regardless of when they need to run or how long they take. As I mentioned earlier, bots do not get the coronavirus. They do not need to work from home. And because these bots can work in the cloud, it does not matter. They don't need to be in a physical office. We can help you save costs by saving some man hours in some of those processes. So if you're spending a lot of money on man hours to carry out a process, if we can help alleviate some of that by automating it, we will save you some cost there. And if the productivity is dropping and the efficiency is dropping whilst people are adjusting to working from home, bots are perfect at dealing with backlogs, and they can work round the clock to ensure that those backlogs do not build. So we have one particular customer who processes 14,000 orders a week. And sometimes, especially nowadays with the whole coronavirus pandemic, they have had some backlogs building up. And by deploying our bots, which we have working and we've now scaled up, they're able to deal with that backlog and stop it from building up. So if you've got any issues right now or anything that any problems you're trying to solve or anything like decreases in productivity and you think RPA can help, please do give us a shout. And finally, I want to discuss RPA as a service. So as I mentioned earlier, RPA was seen to be very expensive some years ago. People were worried that they had to secure the big budgets in order to be able to develop and deploy the bots. And I think nowadays, with people really trying to be careful at where they spend their money because of the uncertainty around the coronavirus, it is even harder to secure the big budgets from the board to be able to deploy bots. And this is where RPA as a service can really help. So what our offering allows you guys to do is hire bots from us. That means you can pay us monthly fees rather than having to get that big bit of money to secure us to secure the development of a bot. And so you can spin up bots and spin down bots as much as you need to do. We as a business will take care of the licensing, the support, the development, and the operation of those bots. So you as a business don't need to worry about anything except working with us to identify the process and then hiring the bots. So what I would implore you all to do is, if you are considering hiring an employee, hire a bot instead, or at least discuss with us how you could potentially hire a bot instead. And we're very, very keen to discuss RPA as a service with everybody on this call. So, Q&A. Before I jump onto the Q&A, because I need to stop sharing the screen, I would just like to say one thing, and this slide hasn't laid out correctly, so I apologize for that. At the end of this, I will be sending you all an email to thank you for your participation. What I would like to say is that if anything we've said today, anything that I've shown you has been of interest, we're happy to have a free consultation with all of you. We're happy to pick up the phone, jump on a screen share, on a Zoom call, whatever it may be, and get in touch with you to discuss how RPA could actually benefit your business. What I've shown you today is very much at a surface level, and I've given you some examples, but you're probably wondering, how does it actually benefit my business and processes? And the only way we can get to that point is if we can sit and we can actually look through some of your processes and figure that out. So if any of you would like a free consultation with us, please do get in touch. I will be sending you all an email so that you all have my contact details. So back to the Q&A. We can just open this up. Here we go. So let's start with Akash's question. So by the way, guys, please add any of your questions. Do this. Any of your questions that you've got to add to this chat, please, and I'll answer them as we can. We've got about 10 minutes to go, so I've got 10 minutes of Q&A, so please add in as many as you want. So Akash has said, do you see a future where in RPA we can use machine learning to handle or overcome errors and exceptions? The answer is yes, absolutely. The advancements of machine learning are coming on leaps and bounds. We know that AI has been around for donkey's years. People in the 80s came up with the idea for automated vehicles. The issue was that the technology has never been as advanced as we've wanted it to be. I believe the technology is... Sorry, somebody just said something. No. So I believe that the technology is getting advanced now. We are already starting to use some AI within our operations, and AI is being built into the RPA platforms. As you probably know, Akash, AI is dependent on, and machine learning is dependent on having the data to feed into the machine for it to learn from. And I absolutely believe that that is where the world is going. Everybody is moving into the AI and machine learning technology, and it can absolutely deal with overcoming errors and exceptions. There will be a lot of testing and a lot of data needed to do that, but I know that, for example, the likes of Automation Anywhere, who are our biggest RPA vendor and our partner, are already working on that type of stuff. So yes is the answer. So Mahmood has said, how much testing is done before you release the bot into production? That's a fantastic question, Mahmood. Thank you very much. There's a lot of testing done. You have essentially 3 environments that you will put the bots through. One is dev, one is test, and one is production. When we do our dev, we are testing constantly that the dev is actually working, so the bot is doing what we need it to do. We then move the bot into test, and again, we do extensive testing on the bot. So we will do use cases and edge case testing. A use case is what we call the happy path, which means we test that the bot will run the process end to end, but we also throw it edge cases. So we throw it things where, you know, the bot itself, we give it the errors. So we give it things that it's not expecting. And that means that we can actually deal with all of the exceptions and all of the errors that the bot is potentially going to see. We also do user acceptance testing, which means before we've gone live with the bot, we hand the bot over to you, not fully, we're still there with you, but we actually get you guys to test it. And only when you sign off on testing to say that you are happy that the bot is doing exactly what it's meant to do and is handling all the exceptions, only then will we put it into the live environment. What we also do is we use defensive programming, and we have our bots performing sanity checks on the systems. So if the bot is about to do a process, it will perform a sanity check and ensure that it is being able to see all of the solutions, or all of the systems, sorry, that it's expecting to see. And if it doesn't, if one of the systems is down for whatever reason, it will flag that up to a human. So I hope that's answered your question, but extensive testing is what we do. And what Phil has mentioned there, Phil is our CTO, is that we always start by building the minimum viable product to ensure that the actual bot itself is up and running, and we can get that into an environment where you can see it working. And that gives you the confidence that it is actually doing what it's meant to be doing. Russ, thanks for your question. We've got 7 minutes, so I'll rattle through these guys. Russ has asked, how is RPA different from the macros I've been creating for 20 years? Thanks, Russ. Very simply, macros work in Excel. The concept of a macro and the concept of RPA are quite close. In a macro, you will document the steps that you want to take and you will then automate it. The same happens with RPA. You document the steps that you want the bot to make and you automate it. What I would say is that macros can't read handwriting and PDF. Bots can. Macros can't log into CRMs, finance systems, HR systems, payroll systems. Bots can. Macros can't scrape websites. Bots can. And macros can't answer emails. Bots can. So whilst the concept is similar, bots can do a hell of a lot more. Effie's asked, how do we start on the RPA journey? Very simply, pick up the phone and talk to us. We're happy to have that free consultation with you. When you start on the RPA journey, my advice would be start with a small process that we can class as a proof of concept. Now, it's not a proof of concept as in can the technology work, because that has been proven and I can show you hundreds of examples. It's a proof of concept is, can the technology work in your organization and can it bring benefit? So what we try to do is we try to identify a process that has maybe somewhere between 3 and 10 steps in that process and uses maybe 3 to 4 different systems. So that might be Excel, Outlook, and a web system, for example. So we try to find a fairly simple process and we look at automating it in a short period of time for a relatively small amount of money that allows you to show the wider business just how good RPA is. And I think that's massively important because we come across a lot of finance directors who say to us, well, it's all well and good, but when am I actually going to see something? So by picking one of those small processes that we call the low-hanging fruit, we can get a really quick implementation up and running and start showing the wider business the ROI. And finally, Phil said, you mentioned attended and unattended. Can you further explain the difference? Absolutely. So unattended automation is basically when you can build a bot that will carry out a process end to end. So let's say we have a process that has 10 steps in it. The bot will be able to do all 10 steps successfully. So that is called an unattended robot, and it will work in the background. No one needs to see it working, and it will just continue to process and automate that process till you tell it to stop. Attended automation is slightly different. Attended automation is where the bot works in conjunction with the human. So think about attended automation as if you were to have an apprentice in your business. And what you would do is you would show that apprentice what to do, but there are probably some steps in the process that the apprentice is doing whereby you as a manager, for example, or an employee needs to actually probably verify something or make a decision that the apprentice isn't quite qualified to make. So you have to have that attended bot. So the apprentice needs somebody that they can rely on to ask questions to and get clarification from. So let's say there's 10 steps in a process. The apprentice, or in this case, the attended bot, may be able to carry out 8 of those steps. But for 2 of them, they need clarification from a manager, for example. So what the bot would do is every time it reaches those 2 steps, it would pass that out to a human, ask for the clarification. The human takes a look, does whatever's needed, and then passes it back to the bot to carry on. That's the difference between the 2. Any more, guys? Nope. Okay. So the time is 10:42. I think we've done that in a very good amount of time. Managed to get it signed off as quick as we could and not keep you guys longer than was needed. What I would like to say is thank you all very much for your time. This is the first webinar we've done. I hope you've seen benefit from it. I've thoroughly enjoyed doing it. We will absolutely do more. And as I say, please feel free to get in touch with us about any of the free consultations or anything to do with RPA. Stay engaged on LinkedIn, stay engaged on our YouTube channel, and we hope to obviously speak to you guys soon. Unless there's one more question, just to thank you very much.
Fantastic, James. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, James.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day. Stay safe, and we'll speak to you all soon.
Bye.
Well done. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, James. Thank you.